Hi, I'm Nina Pierce.
I'm Maya.
And I'm Ella.
And we welcome you to Conversations with Kids. I have been on a personal development journey for several years. And while I would love for my kids to read or listen to personal development, they just roll their eyes at me when I suggest it. They are teenagers after all. So instead, we have several conversations around personal development, personal growth, and mindset. And we welcome you to those conversations and encourage you to have similar conversations as a family at home. As the girls and I record this, we are exactly 9 weeks into quarantine. And as our first podcast together, we wanted to reflect on the last 9 weeks and share a little bit about our mindset, some struggles we've had as individuals and as a family, and also just the growth that we have chosen to have and the perspective that we are choosing every single day. So I'm going to share the mom perspective, and then each of them are individuals. Ella and Maya have very different personalities, so they will each share their perspective. So we wanted to start by going back to the very beginning when we started to feel a change and our lives were impacted like instantly by all of this. So Mai, we'll start with you. Do you remember like when all of this started 9 weeks ago, what were some of the beginning things that we were starting to notice and feel as like we realized that this virus was coming over to the United States and just life was going to change? What were some of those initial things we realized and how we were impacted?
I don't know. At first I was excited that I wouldn't have school, but then I kind of realized that I wouldn't be able to socialize with my friends.
Okay, so the way you were affected initially was with school getting canceled. Now, when school got canceled, how long did you think it was going to be canceled for at
like
first?
2 weeks, because I really wanted it to go past spring break, and then we would be done.
So you were just kind of looking at it as like an extension of spring break, and it's like, oh, this is going to be so cool. So that would have been like 2 weeks, right? Where the initial thing came over here, and it's like, all right, 2 weeks, no big deal. We can kind of, take a break from sports for a couple weeks, not have school for a couple weeks. Perfect. Okay. Ella, what were some of the initial things that you remember when all of this was going on?
Well, we had tryouts the day that we found out that we wouldn't go back to school. And, they were still running that normally. You didn't have to do anything, extra thing, precautions or whatever. And then when, they said that they were going to, cancel school, I felt like I knew that it was going to just be, the rest of the year.
So you initially thought that it was automatically going to be the rest of the year when school got canceled.
Yeah, but I still kind of, hoped that it would, not be.
Okay. Now, I remember we were in the middle of remodeling the kitchen. We were, actually just kind of at the beginning of it. We didn't even have cabinets and counters. And I was working on the couch, and Morgan was working in the kitchen and listening to a podcast. He was listening to sports radio. And I remember we heard the basketball season is, pausing. There's no more basketball games. And then it was kind of one thing after another. We heard this sports was coming to an end, and, they were canceling college basketball and all of that kind of stuff. And when that happened, I was like, ooh, this is going to be serious. And I went to pick up the girls, and it was that same day that we found out that our spring break trip was getting canceled. So I picked up the girls from school, and I was like, girls, I have some really bad news for you. Our trip to Punta Cana has been canceled. And I remember feeling crushed initially, but still at that point I was like, oh, we'll just go somewhere else, or, we'll plan another trip in a month or something.
Yeah, because it was still kind of a joke almost, on social media and stuff. They were joking about it and
yeah, we never ever thought it was going to be as serious as it is, or to the extent that it was. And then that same day, the next day, I guess, I don't even think you guys went to school that night. It was oh, spring break's early. We're going to have an extended spring break. And even then it was just like, okay, 2 weeks or whatever. And the funny thing, do you guys remember the week before, like, all of this happened? So that all happened on a Thursday, I remember, because you didn't have school that Friday. But do you remember the weekend before was your basketball, like, final tournament?
Yeah.
And do you guys remember, like, you were still, like, high-fiving there, I think, weren't you?
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, but like some teams were choosing to do
And then some teams were choosing. And I remember we had, like, 7 games that day. And Ella actually had a soccer tournament in the morning, and then we had 7 basketball games, and between the 2 girls. And I remember having like a couple minutes in between, and we ran to get a coffee and brought one of Ella's teammates with us. And we were like, oh, we're all going to get it, but we're not going to get that sick, and just sanitize your hands and wash your hands, and it's not going to be that big of a deal. And then fast forward to that Thursday when I feel like life changed instantly when everything was getting canceled, but we still didn't understand the severity of it. So then, we go on, and like, I think the week before spring break is when it kind of was like, all right, this is getting big. And we had to only be in groups of 10, and we were still making a point to get out. So what were some of the things that we were doing when we could be in groups of 10 before we went on lockdown?
We would go to the lake and play basketball, or like we could still go in the parks at the time.
Yep.
Too, so yeah.
Yeah,
Alright.
we just went to the park every day, or like.
And we'd hang out with like a few friends. And then it was like when we came on lockdown was when it was like, okay, this is real. And still, like, the way this is all played out is it's been like, 2 weeks. Okay, you're on lockdown for 2 weeks, and then it gets extended, and then it gets extended, and then it gets extended.
Like, it's like they almost just tell you 2 weeks to make you, like, be like, okay, I can just stay inside for 2 weeks.
Right? Because it's that whole mindset. Like, anybody can do, I don't know, in fitness they have it, like, anybody can do anything for 60 seconds. And I want to say, like, with this quarantine, it's been like, anybody can stay home for 2 weeks. Yeah. Anybody can be on lockdown for 2 weeks. And then, it's that whole kind of like letdown when it's like, oh, and now we're extending this for another 2 weeks. So, we kind of talked about that, but how did you guys feel? So at first you were just like, oh, this is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not really.
No?
No, because, like, I didn't really want to take a break from sports, or, like, I didn't really want to stop going to school because it was, like, the end of the year and stuff, and, like, we were, like, doing, like, fun things anyway, and, like, a lot of, I don't know.
I was just,
it was just,
like, excited that, like, we could get, like, a break, like, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah, but we were missing, like, the fun and easy part of school, and not, like, the hard, like, tests or anything.
I remember being excited for, like, the state test being canceled, but that's all.
Yeah, and you guys did not want to take the state test. So you guys were excited when we heard that state testing was canceled. But at that point, we still didn't know that the school year was canceled. Mm-hmm. So thinking of that now, like, that was your initial response, like, excited that school was out, but then disappointed. Like, and I guess initially you just thought it was 2 weeks. And I even remember having a conversation with, like, okay, come May 1st, we can still go back. We can still do all the fun end of the year things. Like, it'll be okay. But when, I think it turned to big disappointment for both of you when you realized that the school was canceled for the rest of the year. Yeah?
Yeah.
So talk about, like, some of your thoughts when you realized it was over for the rest of the year.
Well, I was kind of disappointed because it was, like, the last year of, like, middle school or whatever, and I wouldn't see any of my teachers that I had for, like, all 3 years again. Or, like, I wouldn't see, like, some of my school friends that I never talked to outside of school, but they had, like, gotten really good friends with, like, at school. So I was kind of disappointing.
And I think it's one of those things where, especially for Ella, like, coming out of 8th grade and going into high school, there's no closure. So it just all of a sudden stopped like that with, like, no sign or anything. And there was, she wasn't able to prepare. It wasn't like, okay, we're going to end the school year early, but you guys have, like, 2 days to go back, to get your things, to say goodbye, to just have that closure. And I think that was probably the hardest thing, like, no closure whatsoever. And here we are now, the school year's over, and she just gets to go in one at a time and clean out her locker. And that's how middle school is going to end for her.
And, like, also I was thinking, like, we all wrote, like, letters to ourselves in 6th grade.
Your
Or,
time
like,
capsule.
Oh, yeah. Or, like, we took, like, pictures with a group of friends to see how much, like, we've grown. We, like, write reviews for our, like, challenge day teachers and stuff. Like, I remember getting that, like, review from the former, like, 8th grader in 6th grade and how, like, that, I don't know, I just felt, like, more comfortable there. Like, it wasn't something as, like, new and, like, stuff like that. So, I don't know. I think that was kind of disappointing.
It's sad. Like, it's sad. When you stop and think about it, it's sad. No? Disappointing to you, not sad. Kind of. Okay. And I think that's a big thing. Like, we don't stop and give our kids permission to have feelings and to recognize the different feelings. Like, yeah, we can say it's disappointing, but then the more you talk about it and have that conversation, you can recognize, like, it's sad. And it's okay to be sad about it. But I guess you find comfort because it's not just Ella, it's not just Maya, it's everyone. So Maya, how did you feel? Like, Maya's in 6th grade, so she's not, ending an era, so to speak. But still, it's her first year in middle school. Maya is incredibly social. So when you learned that school wasn't going to continue, how did you feel?
Well, like, since it was my first year of 6th grade, I kind of wanted to, like, see how they were going to do, like, things different for the end of the year instead of, like, just, like, watching the movie the last day or something. And then, we also had, like time capsules and slideshows that we were going to do. And then also saying goodbye to my friends or, going to, like, an ice cream shop after the last day of school. I think that's what I miss most, or, like, what I'm missing most.
And we're a big family on traditions. So, I mean, like Ella said, the last day of school, there's a specific ice cream shop and everybody brings a friend, and that's just our traditional end of the year thing. And, field days and missing out on those experiences. And again, the lack of closure. So it's that thing where I don't know. Have either of you felt lonely?
No.
No.
No, because I FaceTime my friends a lot. So.
Okay, so talk about that, Maya. How have you're such a social person and you thrive in socialization. So being at home with us, and especially like myself and Ella, we're like introverts and we're homebodies. How have you stayed social and kept that strong connection with people?
Well, I remember at first I wasn't, like, really socializing at all besides, like, texting people. But then, like, once school kind of started, like, the online school, I started FaceTiming my friends, and I feel like I had, like, a better attitude after that. Because, like, socializing just, like, I don't know, it makes my day.
It energizes you.
Yeah.
You get energy from other people, and if you're not around people. So you've tapped into FaceTime to do that. While we're on the topic of school, before we move to our next question, how have you guys felt about the education? Do you, what have you enjoyed about this? Our district calls it distance learning. What have you enjoyed about it? And what do you wish would change?
I think it's really bad.
Why?
Because I feel like it's hurting me more than it's helping me. Like, we just get, participation, grades or whatever. So, I could, log on to something and get, a 10%, but I would still show up as, 100% as, in, the grade book, I guess. And, I'm just, not really, don't want to try my best and stuff. And, I also have, I also want to spend that time doing other things that'll, I actually, want to do and that'll make me better in, other parts of, life. I guess the one thing that, I do like is going at my own pace, and I don't have to stay there for 6 hours, not really doing any, some classes at school, it'll just be them, talking the whole time. I feel like I could get more work done, but I feel like they didn't set it up, so it's,
And one of the things that I've struggled with watching Ella is Ella's such a rule follower and an overachiever, and a perfectionist. So she always is looking for approval and trying to do her best. And that's been, great as far as a student because she's always trying her hardest and, trying to get the best grades that she can and learn as much as she can. And she doesn't really have a buy-in to this. So she is literally going through the motions. And I know how easy it is to fall out of habits.
And they're not even, like, expecting anything of
Right.
me. Like, I could do bad and they wouldn't even care. They would be like, oh, it's okay, you participated.
Right. So my biggest fear is that Ella's going to develop these bad habits. And then when she does go back to school, she's going to have to learn to be a student all over again. And like to learn to engage and ask those questions and to put 100% in and not just be like, okay, I did it good. Like she needs to do it with fidelity and do her best work. And I like that she recognizes that she's not doing her best work now, because I think that awareness is huge and will help her get back on track.
But it's also not just like I'm just like doing it. Like I still try and do good and stuff. I'm just not trying as hard as I would have.
Right.
Like I'm not like I still try and get a good grade if we were still doing grades, but like.
And this kills me, because what is one of my signature sayings?
The way you do one thing is the way you do everything.
Right. So again, it just, when you develop that mindset of going through those motions, it carries over into everything. And while they have permission to go through the motions of school right now, I fear that that's going to stick with them longer than it should and is going to carry over into other things. Maya, on the other hand, I think excels with this. I've just seen her dive right into school, and she taps into the support system of their friends. And I think it's amazing, this peer learning that they're doing together, where they're asking each other questions and they're really teaming up. Do you enjoy that type of learning?
I like normal school better than online, but I can deal with this. But I also feel like my teachers were doing a bit better than Ella.
Yeah.
It's just the videos that they send out, it's of them teaching it to us and not different people, or you can actually see their faces in the video. So it's kind of you're there there when they're teaching you that. But I also like helping each other with all my friends and helping each other with the answers and stuff.
I think it's also really different for Maya and I, because she's in 6th grade. I'm in 8th grade, so everyone's not even putting in their full effort anyways, because it's the end of the year and it doesn't really matter anymore. And it's not
and
it's
I think in
towards
January, Ella started to develop this mindset. I told her she had the 8th grade version of senioritis.
Well, yeah, because our first 2 semesters are what mattered, because those our classes in high school depended on those grades and stuff. So once I got all my grades in that one, I was just well, what am I doing now?
A little bit,
I don't really
right?
care. I mean, I still got good grades. I just didn't
You weren't putting so much emphasis on
Yeah.
it. Okay. Now, one more question on school. How do you guys feel? And there's still so much unknown. I mean, I feel like this is day by day what we're going through right now. And while we all want the answers, there's not a single person that has the answers. But what are your fears about the beginning of the school year, and how do you feel about the potential of what the beginning of next year could look like?
just for school.
Yeah, for school. So Ella, you're going into high school. What are your fears about going into high school with this pandemic and possibly not starting in physical school, but starting your high school experience online? How do you feel about that?
Well, I guess my only fear, I feel freshman year is a year that everyone remembers of high school. It's your first homecoming and your first time playing high school sports and being it's a different type of team environment for that and stuff than club or so I guess I'm just kind of afraid that I'm gonna almost out on those big things
Okay.
that everyone else got to do.
Okay. And Maya, how about you? What are your fears or thoughts or worries or concerns about starting 7th grade with all the possibilities that could or might not be?
I think everything will be pretty much the same. Just I don't know, a bit different, but I'll still have the same teachers and stuff, since I'm not going into 6th grade next year, high school. So I think everything will be pretty similar, just a bit different.
Yeah, Maya's lucky because she actually has the same exact teachers all 3 years through middle school. So she just continues on next year in a sense.
I guess that's also another fear though, never meeting these teachers before. They won't like, I feel like they understand more if, like, something doesn't get turned in on time or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they'll just be like, you're just at home, like, doing nothing. Why, like, isn't this working? And you will have, like, a connection to them.
Well, I feel like such a huge part of education in general is the relationship piece and that connection, the human connection. So it's hard to imagine starting in high school with zero connection, like physical connection or relationship with a teacher. And I don't know how you build that the way they're learning right now. So, yeah. So I guess time will tell. And hopefully we don't have to worry about this and they start school back up in August, but we don't know. So we're not going to worry about it yet. Okay, so now moving on from the school topic. And my question for you girls is, what have you missed the most over the last 9 weeks? Like, your lives have changed quite a bit. All of our lives have changed quite a bit. So Maya, what do you miss the most?
Socialization and sports.
Okay. So just like hanging out with your friends or the socialization that comes with sports?
I don't know. I feel like both, cause like, and like school, cause like I get a lot of my socialization time at school, and I also get like sports kind of in at school, just like with track, and I also kind of like either, but I also like after like the after school sports because it's just like another time to socialize and. Like, I don't know, I like playing sports.
Okay. So sports, I mean, you play sports year-round, and, yeah, to have that taken away from you in sports, it's such, like, well, the health factor of it, the outlet of it, where, like, you can get your anger, your frustration, I don't know, the whole healing process of it. So that, in my opinion, as a mom, has been the hardest thing to see you girls go without because it's such a big part of who you are. So, Ella, what do you miss the most?
Well, it's something that Maya said that she misses the socialization. It's kind of nice not, like, having that just because there's, like, so much less drama and, like, just because the people that don't like each other aren't even, like, talking anymore because they just were talking to them because they had to. Like, I feel like it's kind of, like, nicer like that because there's not, like, anything or, like, any conflicts or anything like that. Like, it's really easy to, like, end, like, relationships that you didn't want to be in. Like, you could just, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like there are some people that I just did not want to talk to, but I had to be friends with them because of things. And I feel like it's been, like, kind of good because I don't
like
have
refreshing.
to talk to them anymore and, like, stuff like that.
Yeah. Being an 8th grade girl, it's going to be very, very dramatic at times. And Ella is not the dramatic type of person. So yeah, I think just that you've been able to avoid all of that. And it's refreshing because you're able to protect your own energy and mindset and peace, not hearing all that noise going around all the time. What else do you miss?
I miss sports.
Why do you miss sports?
Just because, like, I don't know, I feel like at first I was really, really, like, disappointed because I feel like if I don't keep playing at, like, a high level or whatever, I'll just, like, lose it, and then I won't be able to, like, go back to what I was doing or anything like that.
So it was more, it was a fear of why you missed sports. Like, you were afraid that you were going to lose a little bit of what you've worked so hard to make?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. And then just that competition. It probably feels weird not to be playing in games where you're competing at that level, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't really like competing against myself.
No.
I like competing against other people better.
And just that energy and everything.
Yeah.
And the socialization that comes with that. Ella's not a very social person.
I am.
Are you?
With certain people.
Yes, she's very selective. So in a way, this has been nice, like you said, because you haven't been drawn into the drama and stuff. And as a mom, like, honestly, I miss watching them play sports because I think it builds so much of their character and it's so much of who they are. It's not about the winning and all of that, but seeing how hard they work and the lessons that they learn on the field, and just through loss and through challenge and by pushing themselves and just, like, going and going and going when they don't think they can anymore. I think they probably learn more through sports than they do at school, to be honest with you. So it's been really hard for me not to have that. And I learned so much about parenting through them as athletes, which is kind of cool too. So we really miss that. So what have been some positives? Like, we're talking about all the things we miss and just school and all of that, but what have been some of the positives over the last 9 weeks?
Well, like when I said I was like at first disappointed because of like sports, and I thought I would like get behind. I feel like it was actually the opposite, and I feel like I've gotten very far ahead, just because I've been like I've been training harder than I was with sports going on, and like I think that was a huge thing.
One of the coolest things for me is like sometimes you wonder if you're pushing your kids too hard or if they're doing too much. And when we realize that, okay, there's no practices, and we know how quickly you can lose things. Like, you can be in the best shape of your life and take a month off, and it's like starting all over again. And Ella had such a fear that, she didn't want to come out of this, whether it was going to be 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, a year. She didn't want to come out of this, starting all over again. She wanted to take advantage of the potential she had to grow and become better through all of this. So she is actually, it's all self-driven, and I've seen how disciplined she is, and also the passion that she has. And every day she's working out, she still plays basketball, she's playing soccer, she's probably training harder in soccer right now than she has for the last, ever before. And she's just physically and mentally pushing herself so much.
That is also another one of my fears. Like, I am afraid that I'm not doing enough, and that, I just feel like I am, but I will be behind.
Yeah,
even
so...
though I feel like I'm doing a lot.
But she has the direction, and she does. We don't like to compare ourselves, but compared to her teammates and to her peers, you're going above and beyond anyone else. You don't think so?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah. So how about you, Mai? What were some of the positives that came out of it all for you?
I don't know. I feel like in a way that I've kind of figured out who my real friends are. Because a lot of people, I don't know. I feel like their true self has come out over the quarantine.
Ooh, that is powerful, sister.
But I also feel like I have gotten a lot stronger, and I feel like I'm more. I was kind of nervous about starting tackle football, just only doing flag football at the time, and only doing workouts 2 times a week. And now I'm doing a workout every day, and I'm getting out and doing football, so I feel like I'm more prepared.
And that's been something that's been really cool to see for Maya. She's working out every single day. And she started out kind of going through the motions, and it was almost like it was a punishment that she had to work out, because fitness is a huge part of our family, and it's one of our core values. We move our bodies every day. And it was like a punishment for Maya. And now she is so self-driven. She wakes up, she does her workout every single day. No longer is she complaining or trying to get out of it or trying to count walking up the stairs as her workout. So that's been really cool, and I've noticed a difference in her energy because of it, and she is so much stronger. And luckily, she has a coach as a dad.
And I think Maya's going to be even farther ahead of her peers than I am, because they're only in 6th grade. Everyone's just watching shows. They're because they're almost still young enough that if they do get out of shape, it'll be really easy for them to be back in shape. But initially, Maya will have such a big
she's going to have an advantage
in front of them, and she'll keep it because of
which is awesome, because going into tackle football, some could say, we don't believe this, but some could say that she's at a disadvantage because she's a female.
Which she won't be.
But she won't be at a disadvantage because she's a female, because we don't believe in that. But she's actually going to be at an advantage because she's working so hard and pushing herself in so many different ways. So I think it's safe to say that all of us kind of had that mindset of all right, we can take this time and we can find a way to grow, to kind of get an edge up in every area that we can that's in our control. And I think all of us have really, really done that, and that's a huge celebration. So what about like mindset wise? Like talking kind of about feelings, like one of my fears, and this comes from my education background and comes from my coaching background and just being a mom in general. My fear is that this is going to have such a huge impact socially, emotionally, and mentally on so many people. And I already see it in some of their peers. I see it in some of my peers. I see it already. And it's a huge fear that I have of mine. So that's something as a mom, I'm always checking into with them, just like socially, emotionally, mentally, where are you? How do you feel about all of this? Like, what's your mindset? Like, what can we do? So what are some of the things that we've been doing on a daily basis just to make sure that we are socially strong, we're mentally strong, we're physically strong, just in good spirits all the time and like positive?
I think probably getting out and working out or like doing something like active, because I always feel like if I'm just like inside all day and doing nothing, then like I don't know, I feel like
Whoa, wait a second. So next time I ask you to go on a walk and you're like, oh, I don't want to go, I can just remind you and be like, oh my, no, remember this getting outside makes you feel so much better.
Like, I went outside a lot and I was getting tired, so if I go out like once a day, then I'm fine.
Just once a day.
Yeah.
So we intentionally go outside at least once a day, whether it's a walk in our neighborhood, a walk to the coffee shop, a walk around the lake, whatever. Playing basketball, like we get outside. And that has been huge for all of us. And we have done that since day one. And I don't think over the last 9 weeks there has been a day that we have not ventured out some way, somewhere. So that has been huge.
I was just going to say our walks, because I feel like that's when we talk about, like, the most stuff.
So our walks are therapy. So if you, as a family, can go outside and go on a half an hour walk, it's magical. The conversations that will happen, like, you don't even need to have any questions or anything. Just start walking. And when you walk, they will talk. It doesn't matter which kid I am with or if we were all out there as a family. When we walk, they talk. And it is so incredibly powerful just where you can get in the vulnerability and authenticity that these conversations have. So, yeah, if we could recommend one thing to you guys listening and something to take out of this and to continue to do, go on walks as a family. Go on one-on-one walks with your kids and just listen and talk. It's been awesome. So we want to leave you with one final thing. I'm going to ask them one last question, and we will leave you with that. So whenever this is over, and we know that, life will not, like, what was normal before will never be normal again. We're going to create our new normal. But over the last 9 weeks, what is something that you've implemented and you've been doing that you weren't doing before, but you want to take with you in the future? What's one thing that you've learned that you weren't doing before that you want to continue to do?
I guess for me, it would just be like having as much as like a drive that I have towards sports right now. I feel like it got bigger and I got like more like motivated to do, like, I feel like I've been doing so much more work and stuff, and like just taking that after this, because I feel like that on top of like practices and everything will help me. Like,
Awesome.
getting more extra practices and getting extra workouts and just stuff like that.
And I've seen a huge change in your mindset because of that drive and discipline. It's almost like your mindset has changed because of that. So awesome. That's a great thing to take with you. How about you, Mai?
I agree with Ella about like the drive, but I also think like not taking things for granted. Like I would always take like socializing with my friends. Like I would always take that for granted and be like, oh, I can always do that. Like as long as mom would let me, I'm not in trouble. And yeah, I think not taking things for granted and having like a drive.
Awesome. And I think it's hard because we've always been such a family that does everything together. Like Ella had a friend over last night and she was saying how as a family, we're all always together. So when she has friends over, she can't just like hang out with her friend because we're all always together. But when she goes to her friends' houses, like, she doesn't even see the rest of their family. And that to me was such a foreign concept because we are always together. I always say that my kids are still attached at the cord. And at any given moment, I can put my arms out and I can touch all three of them because we're just always right there together. And, you know, sometimes it's annoying and I complain about it, but it's one of the things that I absolutely love. We just have these very close relationships, and we are honest with each other, and we're very involved with each other, and we support each other in every way. So we are all always together. And so when we started this quarantine, it wasn't much different because we've always all been together doing everything together. So being at home together wasn't really foreign to us. But one of the things that I've absolutely loved is before we were on the go 24/7, eating dinners in the car, running from this practice to that practice, this game to that game. And I truly believe that we thrive being busy and we thrive during the hustle just because we are all such high achievers, and, you know, we just, I don't know, that's how we're wired. So slowing down was kind of weird and awkward at first, but one thing that I have enjoyed was eating at home and having our dinners at home. And we implemented something where, you know, we all have a voice in what we have for dinner. We all contribute to dinner. And the kids will take different turns and make dinner. And that's been something that's been great. So I like that. But kind of going along what Maya said was not taking things for granted. And, you know, just like a 2-hour commute to a soccer practice, I will never, ever complain about again. Because the reward and the privilege of being able to have Ella play soccer and watch her play soccer has been amazing. And I will never, ever complain about having to run from one thing to the next, because that to me is true freedom. And it's so rewarding to be able to provide those opportunities for my kids. And now that they were taken away, I see so much more of the value that they give them. So I think it's that perspective. It's not taking things for granted and truly always being grateful that we have the choice. Being grateful we have the choice to work as hard as we do, to be as busy as we are, and all of that. But I think something that we can all take away is that even though we've been at home and we've had so much more flexibility and so much more time, these days are going by fast. And the days are probably busier in a lot of ways than what they have been. We're not watching TV all day. We're not, you know, hanging out all day. We're doing things. We're being productive. And we truly are making sure we are growing socially still. We're growing emotionally still. We're growing mentally. And our mindset is always our number one priority. All right. That is a wrap for today's episode. Unless Ella and Maya, do you guys have anything to add?
No.
All right. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you soon.